Member for Narrabeen.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker, and I grieve for Victoria because I just had to listen to 15 minutes of rubbish that come from the member for Footscray. And absolute rubbish it was. I'm going to go straight into it. I'm going to go rebut the member for Footscray straight off the bat. She said the Liberal Party we've lost sight of aspiration when it comes to home ownership. Member for Footscray's words, not mine. And isn't it interesting that the former Premier of this state stated people would rather rent than buy a home. The government's whole policy is rent to build. Rent. That's their policy. You see it on everything. So for the member of Footscray to jump up and say the Liberal Party has lost sight of aspiration for millennials and Gen Zs, it's the biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard. The biggest load of rubbish I've ever heard, and this is why we grieve for Victoria, because those on that side of the chamber just keep regurgitating the same rubbish over and over again when the facts are completely different. Those on that side of the chamber have talked themselves into believing that this state is in a good condition. They do. They've talked themselves into it. If this state is in such a good position, in a good condition, why are so many people struggling?
Exactly.
Riddle me that, Batman. Why are so many people struggling? Why is cost of living out of control if this government is doing such a sterling job of running this state? Why is our housing targets in the toilet? Why is our millennials and Gen Zs can't afford to get into a home because 43% of a home is made up in taxes and levies that this government introduced? 32 of them since 2014. 32. The member for Mornington rightly pointed out earlier about our homelessness crisis, and he is 100% correct. When you have, back in 2014, 11,000 applicants, to today over 65,000 applicants, how can that side get up and say, we are doing such a great job with housing? They've failed. The government has failed to deliver housing into this state. Exactly. They didn't have an idea of what to do till 2020. Took them 6 years to figure out a housing policy. 6 years. Call that paralysis by analysis. Absolutely failed housing at every turn, and they're failing the construction industry, and then they won't have enough builders to deliver what they want. Targets are already down. 46,000 homes short in the first 2 years. Oh yeah, they're doing a sterling job. They're doing a ripping job. And that's why I grieve for Victoria. I grieve for Victoria because cost of living is out of control. The Ball Food Hub, Food Bank in my electorate, you go talk to them, and you talk to them about the people coming through the door. People that have never, ever been there before because they can't afford to live anymore. And they're humiliated. They sit in a car deciding whether to go in or not. Yes, this government's doing a great job. That's why there's so many people attending food banks now. Because everything this government does is charge Victorians more and they can't afford to live. Olivia's Place, another non-for-profit charity in my electorate that supplies clothes to new families. And they supply baby formula and nappies and all those types of things. It is a fantastic organisation. The area they cover now, it used to start, it was just in like Warrigal and Druin. It now covers from Morwell all the way down to Berwick. People are driving to Olivia's Place to get help with the basic essentials of having a new baby. So if this government's doing such a good job, why are so many people going there? Why are so many people going to Olivia's Place because they can't afford the basic essentials for a child? Oh yeah, doing a great job. Doing a great job. Everything has gone up. Gas, up. Water, up. Power, up. Council rates, up. Interest rates, up. Fuel through the roof, and the basic thing that people need, food, up. This government is doing such a good job that everything is out of control. But they sit there and they go, oh no, there's nothing to see here, we're doing a great job. We're doing a really good job. The fact that we're paying $1 million per hour in interest, this government is great fiscal managers. I've said it before, they don't know how to make money, they just know how to spend money. And when they spend it all, they come after you again and again and again. This government is criminal the way they treat Victorians. Criminal. We are heading to $190 billion in debt. $190 billion. And remember that interest bill, that's if we keep the current credit rating. Asked him, Payak, have you done any modelling if we lose the credit rating? No. No modelling. So what will that interest be per hour then? $24 million a day in interest is the absolute epitome of mismanagement. You can't be that incompetent and still be in government. It absolutely astounds me. And that's why most Victorians cannot wait till November 28. They can't wait to get rid of this incompetent government. Absolutely incompetent government. A government that hasn't been honest with Victorians, hasn't been, like the member for Mildura stated earlier, transparent with Victorians. And that's what Victorians deserve, but they don't get under this government. No transparency at all. And then the worst kept secret of all, $15 billion of corruption payments to through the CFMEU to criminal organisations. And I said it last week, the government keeps denying this. Oh, it's a made-up figure, it's subjective. Then have the investigation into it. Be transparent. Give IBAC more powers. Pretty simple solution if you believe it didn't happen. But what would he get out of the government? The same old line, the same old line. They are not answering any questions on this in question time. It's just the regurgitated line time and time again. But they will not answer the questions. They will not have an investigation into it. They will not be transparent with Victorians to let them know where their money went, their $15 billion. And if it's not $15 billion, how much is it? And if it's only $1.5 billion, well, that's just as bad. But they don't want anyone to know. They don't want anyone to know. The Premier has quite often stated that I referred it on, Great. Well, I tell you what, why don't you do this? Grab the documents from when the Premier was told, grab the documents and then produce the documents when you referred it. Let's find out the timeline. Would have been the next day? I would have. Or is it a year later? We're never going to know. We're never going to know. And I grieve for regional Victoria. I grieve for regional Victoria because we are the ones who get screwed over all the time. Shafted all the time. That's as good as I can put it, Deputy Speaker, because it's the truth. When we have 25% of our population living in regional Victoria and we only get 12% of infrastructure funding, at what point in time is that fair? At what point in time is that reasonable? Our roads are crumbling. In my electorate in Narrabeen, I have had not one new government school for over 50 years, yet I hear the Minister for Education stand up there and sprout, build a school here, build a school there, build a school there, in Labor seats. The ultimate of pork barrelling is this government, but not one new school in Narrabeen. Not one. How's that fair? How's 12% of infrastructure spending in regional Victoria fair? And that's not even getting in to the West Gippsland Hospital. A commitment made by this government in 2022 that we will start this hospital in 2023. Their words, not mine. We will start this hospital in 2023, and even as I stand here today, I have still not had an update from the Minister for Health on where the hospital is at. The Minister for Health tried to refer me off to the Minister for Health Infrastructure. It's not her responsibility if the Minister for Health hasn't done her job. So don't sit there and defer me off. Answer the question. The community deserves to know. I mean, we're happy to see $15 billion float out the door, and I can't get one answer to a very simple question to update my community on where the hospital is at. Of course I agree for this state. I agree for this state because of this incompetence of this government. I mean, $13 million on machete bins, for goodness sake, that we're going to put outside a police station where a criminal's going to walk up and go, oh, sorry, I hit someone with this, you can take it now. How stupid. Absolutely stupid. There was another way to do it, but they didn't think of that. And it hasn't helped our machete problem in this state. Crime is rampant. It's out of control. My electorate's gone up by 12%. And coming back to the infrastructure spending, I've got one 24-hour police station for 4,500 square kilometres in my electorate. 4,500. One 24/7 station. Druins Police Station was built in 1974 when they had a population of 4,000 people. Now, the two towns of Warragul and Druin now have a combined population of 43,000. No investment into Druin for a 24-hour police station. Not one. But I know, we're doing a great job. We're doing a great job. Of course I agree for Victoria. I agree for Victoria because this government is so incompetent. And let's look what they did to the timber industry. Decimated the timber industry. Was meant to run through to 2030. 2030, and the government pulled the rug right out from under them. Right out from underneath them. And they suffered. And they went through so much rubbish with this government for a decade, for the best part of a decade. And then when the government said, OK, we'll shut you down in 2030, they lied about that. They pulled the rug out of them in 2023. Timber workers had millions and millions invested in machinery, but that didn't matter to the government. They didn't care. They weren't working, weren't getting paid. Took them ages to get their payouts. And then, and then we go to the Com Games. Oh my goodness. This is how good this government is. $600 million to hold the games in another country. 589 million, 600 million to have the games in another country. And they still haven't delivered the infrastructure they promised when they cancelled the games. But not only that, they lied about that. They basically said the Com Games are begging us, they're begging Melbourne to have it. They didn't beg Melbourne. Melbourne took them out, they brought them dinners, they courted them to have the Commonwealth Games. They didn't beg them. What a load of rubbish. And then the reason was because it was going to cost $7 billion, but there has not been one document to substantiate that figure. It was an inflated figure and it was admitted. It was even admitted they doubled the figures, so it looked like it was justifiable to cancel the games at $7 billion. That was a lie. The government lied. They misled. I can use heaps of ways to describe it, Deputy Speaker, but at the end of the day, it was blatant what they did, what the government did. Eventually doubling the figures to justify to cancel the games. And now, as a member for Bulleen rightly pointed out the other day, thank goodness British Airways are flying directly to London now. It will be quicker for us to get to the Glasgow Games. How incompetent, how utterly incompetent is this government. And that is why we grieve for Victoria, because they have to put up with this incompetence, but not for very much longer. Not for very much longer, because I feel the mood in Victoria is changing very rapidly. And I feel Victorians have had enough. They've had enough of the corruption. They've had enough of the secrecy. They've had enough of the misleading the Victorian public. And the reason I really grieve for this state is because Labor have stuffed it.
Yeah. Before I call the member for Northcote, I'll remind members again about parliamentary language. Member for Northcote.